Okay, well, welcome to our workshop tonight. I know the PowerPoint says nutrition essentials, but really we're looking at our supplement recommendations that we really look at in the office. And why do we care about nutrition? I feel like that's kind of a no-brainer question. And in order to answer that question, I first want to look at when you have a species going extinct, what do? You introduce a species, right? If you have a tiger going extinct or a lion going extinct, what do? You introduce them to their natural habitat, right? You make sure that they are exposed to what is natural to that species in order for them to thrive. And so when we look at what is health, we have to look at how healthy that being moves, how healthy that being thinks, and how healthy that being eats. Is that species eating the foods that is natural and healthy in order for it to not only survive, but thrive? And so we're going to go through a few PowerPoint slides here that talk about why supplementation is important, but I want you to realize that supplementation is that. It's supplementing a lifestyle where you are feeding yourself good, healthy nutrition. Okay, that is vital for us to not only survive, but thrive in our environment, right? So let's talk about why we care about this, because this is back in 1936. This is what they were saying in Congress. 99% of American people are deficient in minerals and have a marked deficiency in any one of the more important minerals that actually results in disease. And this is what they're talking about in 1936. Do you know that most of us today are suffering from certain dangerous diet deficiencies which cannot be remedied until the depleted soils from our foods are brought into proper mineral balance? Our foods that we are raising across millions of acres of land no longer contain enough of the certain needed minerals. And when we are consuming foods, we are actually starved to a degree because we do not have this sufficiency in the foods we are eating. This is in 1936.
Yeah, wow, that's pretty amazing.
And so with agriculture, I would say World War II, we saw a dramatic shift in small farmers to much larger corporations, much more expansive operations that are utilizing our farmlands to, generate more of a monogamous type food supply and not rotating crops, not using animals to provide good, healthy, giving back of to enrich the soils. When we talk about microbiome, of the healthy body and healthy gut, we also look at, well, what's the microbiome we're exposed to and what we, to feed our bodies, right? So, this is why we talk about supplementation, because what we're consuming, and this is, 90 years ago, or 88 years ago, almost, that we're dealing with this challenge and this issue. And we have to look at Americans as being overfed and, undernourished. We are eating calorie-rich foods, nutrient-poor, fatty, starchy, sweetened, prepackaged, overprocessed, artificially preserved foods. When we go back to what supports a species thriving is in their natural habitat. So where in the world do we see Cheetos or Doritos or cereal? I mean, Wheaties, they have like the nice little, wheat plant on a Wheaties box. You think, oh, that's natural, but are those flakes natural? We don't grow those anywhere. Those are our processed foods, and majority of the foods we consume are processed, ultra processed. Ultra processed is actually a term, and typically has a lot of seed oils as an additive. That's canola oil, sunflower, safflower oil, and all those. So most overweight people are undernourished at the cellular level, meaning their cells are craving nutrition. And we create this vicious cycle of consuming foods that are just not, creating a happy and full cell. And these are old numbers. CDC on obesity, 42% of US adults are obese. By 2020, we should really check this to see if it's 75% of Americans are overweight or obese. Obesity-related conditions, heart disease, stroke, type 2 diabetes, certain types of cancers. Estimated annual medical costs in 2008, $147 billion. And I was actually listening to a speaker talk about the research presented on if we were able to find a cure for cancer, would that, would we see lifespan increase? Would we see, a stop of massive cancer deaths? And what the researchers were found was, well, maybe you'll get a year, but it's just going to lead to a death in another way. Maybe they're not dying of cancer, but maybe they're dying of heart disease, or maybe they're dying of some other chronic disease. And I bring this up because, again, we have to look at how are we eating, how are we moving, how are we thinking, and are we living in a natural state that allows for us to thrive? And when we are in the middle of Denver, very urban, not getting access to Mother Nature, not moving like we were meant to move, and not consuming foods like we were meant to move, we see a very different presentation in terms of our life and health. I don't want to spend a ton of time on these, but heart disease is the leading cause of death, both men and women. And what is the first symptom we get with heart disease? Anybody know?
What is the what?
First symptom we get with heart disease. It is a heart attack. That is the first symptom we get with heart disease. And how do most people define health? How do most people know that they're healthy? If they feel good. So if heart disease typically is around for a long period of time before we start to have a symptom. But if the first symptom you get of heart disease is a heart attack and it kills most people, then our definition and how we really understand health is flawed, right? So we've got to look at other things. But stroke, fifth leading cause of death, diabetes, seventh leading cause of death. Key risk factors: high blood pressure, high blood cholesterol, smoking, diabetes, overweight, obese, unhealthy diet, physical inactivity, excessive alcohol use. And again, how we move, how we eat, how we think. I think, if we're looking at key risk factors, certainly that we would be seeing isolation as a part of this. We know how important being connected and in community is at this point. Again, very old survey, but I found this to be fascinating. How Americans spend their food dollars back in 1997. Look at these. I mean, the food that we have on here is macaroni and cheese and Campbell's soup. Those are the only food options. So again, have we changed?
I
know, that's where I'm just,
Because people aren't spending it on food.
or they're finding it.
Yeah.
It's probably people going to the grocery.
Yeah.
But
But and again, maybe we see less smoking at this point. I don't know. I can't say what has changed in 20 plus years, but again, our food spending probably hasn't changed much. And the variety of foods we have available to us to consume are not necessarily better. So top 20 carbohydrates in American diet: potatoes, white bread, cold breakfast cereal, dark bread, orange juice, banana. There's our first grown food: white rice, pizza, pasta, muffins, fruit punch, Coca-Cola, apple. There's our second: skim milk, pancakes, table sugar, jam, cranberry juice, French fries, candy. So of those top 20, we've got 2 foods that are actually grown, we can find in nature. So I'm painting a picture here that, okay, our standard American diet is not cutting it. right? So when we're talking about food choices, and this is not meant to be a topic on food choices, it's meant to be a topic on supplementation. How can you supplement a healthy diet? That's really the key here. So we're going to just move right along. So supplementing your diet. Something we consider as essential in terms of supplementation is a multivitamin. And a multivitamin is just that. It's meant to bridge the micronutrient gap from just the busy lives we live and the lacking in minerals and just nutrition in our food sources. So it is not going to be high in vitamin D. It's not going to be high in magnesium. It's not going to be high in any one vitamin or mineral. It's meant to bridge the gap. So it's meant to be a multivitamin. And, you know, I should have done a quick search on recalls of nutritional supplementation that we see, you know, happening throughout the world. But you really want to be conscientious of the quality of nutrition you're getting in supplementation. We see it in, you know, olive oil and avocado oil, where we're trying to cut costs. We see fillers used for, say, our avocado or our olive oils, where they're adding some canola or adding some other seed oil. We see that also happening in our supplementation, just adding in stuff to get a product. And actually, I was reading, I don't love getting any supplementation from Amazon, but I was reading that there was one company that went in and tested multiple supplement available on Amazon and found that none of them, number one, had the they had other stuff in the supplements that they were purchasing. So they took it to the lab and tested it. And then none of them had the actual dosing that was written on the bottle. So again, you have to look at where are you purchasing your supplements. Typically, you want to go from, you want to be confident in the brand that you're getting it from. And that's where I like to go directly to the store or directly to the nutraceutical company when we're talking about brands. So the stuff that you're getting at a Target or a Walgreens, probably pretty low quality. Generally, I like, if you're wanting to get it in store, I like using a Sprouts or using a Whole Foods or using a natural grocer. Their natural grocer, especially, I know their brand a little bit better, but you walk into their grocery store and they've done some legwork to keep GMO out, genetically modified organisms. They've worked to provide that there is more organic or mostly organic options available. You know, so they are really doing more homework to make sure what they have on the shelf is a higher quality supplement. But then a lot of supplements that Doc and I are using are only available through a healthcare provider. And so you won't see like one that we like. I don't necessarily carry a lot of this stuff, but in terms of standard process, but one we like is like a standard process. I don't know if you can see that. Here's standard process. I'll show it. But standard process is a Whole Foods supplement. So everything you have here is from their farm. They grow all of their vegetables on their farmland. They have, I mean, standard process is fascinating in terms of the lengths they've gone to make sure that they don't have cross-contamination of GMO seed. They, again, to get organic labeling, you need to go through a rigorous process within the FDA using different, you know, you're using different, I guess I'll say chemicals, but you're using different, you know, I'm going to say chemicals that are considered safer to grow your products. You're not using the pesticides or the fungicides or the whatever sides there are to clear out any bugs or, you know, concerned about infestation. But anyway, these guys have actually purchased farmland all around the farm to create a barrier or a buffer so that they don't have GMO seed showing up, you know, on their.
What's the title?
This is just, the company's called Standard Process, but we have to sign a contract saying,
What's underneath it?
oh, this is cod liver oil.
Oh,
But we have to sign something that says we're not going to sell this on Amazon. So you won't find this on Amazon, but you will find some of the other nutritional supplementation that we use. Some of them do and are okay with using it on Amazon. That's why I bring that up.
Balance of beach.
I guess I don't know. I'd have to look. I'd have to look at Balance of Nature. But if you use any supplements or using any brands, bring them in. We'll look at the ingredients label. You know, Peter just brought in a Whole Foods 365 brand of vitamin D. And with vitamin D, the biggest thing is you want to make sure you're having the active form of vitamin D in there, which is calciferol. That is the active form. But a lot of times to save on cost, we can see supplements that have the inactive form of vitamin D. So you consume that, it's vitamin D, but it doesn't take the active form in your body. And when we're talking about, I mean, what's the best time to take a supplement is, I tell people when you're going to take the supplement. There is no use of buying supplements and it just sitting in your cupboard because you're having a hard time, you know, taking the supplement at the best time. But optimum nutrient bases are more likely to be found in supplements that are spread out over several tablets or capsules, meaning you're taking multiple capsules throughout your day. I'll tell you, I've been doing my own work, and the only time I take my supplements is at the end of the day. I don't care what they tell me. It's the best time to take it at night, best time to spread it out. I don't care. I'm taking it when I take it, when I can be consistent with it. So the best time I would say is when if you're going to buy a supplement, the best time to take it is when you're actually going to take it. So you can consume that. The other thing that I think are supplemental to your nutritional needs are greens. You know, as you saw from, you know, almost 30 years ago, what we're consuming, top 10 foods that we're purchasing or carbohydrates that we're purchasing, is there's not a lot of greens in there. In fact, there was 0 greens in there. And so dark leafy green vegetables can be a powerhouse in terms of nutrition. And I think if you have a great brand that you can, you know, there's quality there. If you can do like a greens powder where you're just doing a scoop a day. Standard Process has one. Dr. Kristen has a company she really likes, Orenda. They have one. There's a company that we worked with called Dynamic Greens. Most of the companies that we've worked with that we carry have some type of greens powder available. Sprouts or Natural Grocer or Whole Foods, I know that they have some powders available. But again, it's first starting with reading the label. You know, if there's anything added that you don't understand, you want to go home and look at, okay, what is this and why is it in there, right? But I like greens. So let's get into essential supplementation. So omega-3 fatty acids, which is what cod liver oil is here. But they are important for cell membrane structure. So every cell has this layer, you know, it's like this double layer that makes its cell covering. And between that layer is fats. Okay, so every cell is made up of fat. And so when we are consuming omega-6s and highly inflammatory foods, seed oils, canola oil, vegetable oil, you know, safflower oil, sunflower oil, cottonseed oil, when we are consuming those, and a lot of them, those seeds, which are, or those fats, which are really rancid fats, are what start to make up your cell membrane. Okay, so fats are really important for healthy cells. It's a precursor to supporting an anti-inflammatory state. You've got your N6 and you have your N3s. N3s are your EPA DHA, which is typically found in cod liver oil. It's fatty fish from cold waters. And 6s are typically found plant seed nut oils. So if you've got borage seed oil, evening primrose, black currant oil, that's an anti-inflammatory oil. Versus your fish oils, again, anti-inflammatory oil, that's again going to be more of a fish oil. Flaxseed oil. Some people are like, oh, I don't eat fish, so flaxseed oil is a good option here. But really important in terms of an anti-inflammatory state within your body. And do I have it here? No, I don't. Oh, but I have it here. So your body requires a balance of omega-6s, which are the processed vegetable oils, foods, restaurant fare, and omega-3s. So you want a healthy ratio between the two. When you're in a healthy ratio, it reduces your risk factor for chronic illness. Okay. 100 years ago, that ratio of omega-6s to omega-3s was 4-to-1. So for every 4 omega-6s you consumed, and again, omega-6s are more of a processed food versus your 1. That's a anti-pain zone. So you're not going to be in pain. Okay. With the standard American diet, the ratio has reversed to 25-to-1, meaning we are consuming 25 parts of the inflammatory, processed, ultra-processed foods to the 1 healthy fat. Okay, the salmon, the fish, the flaxseed, the good seeds, all of that. Many believe this has resulted in skyrocketing rates of disease. Consumption of omega-3s has shown to prevent coronary heart disease, heart attack, stroke, high blood pressure, high triglycerides, bronchial asthma, and diabetes too. So we look at how can we supplement with a healthy fish oil or omega-3. I talk about omega-3s as being highly anti-inflammatory. You can also put a turmeric in this category. Turmeric is really great anti-inflammatory supplement if you don't want to do a fish oil. Now, if you're taking a fish oil, some people are like, I don't like the taste, I burp up fish. If you're burping up fish, that's a rancid fat. It is not good. So if you are taking a healthy fish oil, you should not be burping up any fish flavor, because when you do, that's an indicator that it's a rancid fat.
You were taking. What? From Costco. Tasted like fish. Oh,
Yeah.
that was for the brain. Oh.
Yeah. Well, and again, fish oil's for the brain.
It was focus factor. And
Okay.
it tasted like fish.
Yeah. But if you're burping it up, that's a different.
No, I wouldn't burp it up.
Okay.
When I swallowed it, it tasted like fish.
Yeah.
So I took it.
And I would say, again, Costco is not my first choice in getting supplements. I know it's accessible and I know you get big bottles of things, but you've really got to look at, okay, where am I getting my supplementation? And just like all things, there's a shelf life with them. So if you're getting a massive bottle, are you going to consume that bottle in that time frame, right? But when we look at daily supplementation, okay? So daily supplementation for healthy people who rarely eat fish, between 0.5 and 1 gram a day. So Peter, when you looked at yours was around, your wife's was around 700 milligrams. So this is within that, daily supplementation. Again, this is with somebody consuming a healthy diet. This is somebody who's probably not at a 25-to-1 ratio. If you're at a 25-to-1 ratio, you're going to have to increase your anti-inflammatory supplementation, which is what a fish oil is. If you have a chronic ailment, you can increase this to 2 to 4 grams a day. So that means you're taking 2,000 to 4,000 milligrams a day. That's typically what these supplements are dosing, is milligrams. I take around 2,000 milligrams a day. So I just know we live in a stressful, toxic life. I'm exposed to a lot of things. I think 2,000 is a good dosing for me to take. Even, looking at these dosing requirements that I wrote down. I don't eat a lot of fish. I eat very little fish. I grew up in South Dakota. We ate beef for dinner, right? We didn't have a lot of fish. But for acute therapies, for serious illness, look at this range, 3 to 30 grams a day, right? So again, I think as long as you have a healthy fish oil, you're not going to go wrong with your dosing, but you need to make sure you're taking enough. And again, the supplement's a healthy lifestyle. Okay. And then if you go back to this slide here, I talked about, your N6 icosanoids, this GLA that's more from plants and nuts. If you've got, now I'm going to jump to this prevention, GLA, that's that 6. That can be great for eczema, RA, psoriasis, diabetes, PMS, high cholesterol versus your EPA DHA. DHA is typically great for brain. EPA is typically great for muscular, but different types of, support in terms of prevention if you're using one over the other. Okay. Now, the next essential nutrition is vitamin D, cholecalciferol. That is the active form. So if you're taking vitamin D, you want to make sure you see that in parentheses, that's what you're taking. Really important. High levels of vitamin D are crucial to avoiding chronic disease and supporting overall immune health. It is vital for calcium metabolism, cell and growth development of your brain. Pneumonia, breast and liver cancers, and depression are all associated with insufficient levels of vitamin D. In fact, this is back in 2020 when COVID was a real problem. Vitamin D deficiency increased your risk of death to COVID by 15-fold. So in terms of public health measures, we should have been sending vitamin D to every household in America. And if most of the time we get vitamin D through sunlight, but we've found that even if you're working in the sun all day, those people are still vitamin D deficient. So there's a component of, and especially where we live, we are just not getting enough sunlight, even though we have sun more days of the year than any other place in the US or California anyway. So vitamin D supplementation, I think, is vital. It's just really identifying what's the appropriate vitamin D dosage. And so that's where I think getting your vitamin D levels tested on a semi-regular basis to make sure you're dosing appropriately is a good thing. There's this great vitamin D calculator. You can actually go in and put your vitamin D levels into that calculator, put in what you want your levels to be, and it'll tell you exactly what you need to dose. Typically, the ranges that are acceptable in our healthcare are like the lower, like lowest limits of normal. That is like you were on the precipice of like just maintaining your, barely decent levels. Which I think when I got my vitamin D levels tested and I was dealing with my MS bout, I was like at 12. The normal limits, they say, are around 30. And really, I would say you want to be around 50 to 60. Or you can go all the way up to 90. But if you're not taking vitamin D levels at all, I typically do 10,000 IUs a day, dosing wise, for 2 weeks, and then you drop it down to 1,000 IUs per 25 pounds. So if I weigh 100 pounds, I'm taking 4,000 IUs. But again, you can be more specific with your vitamin D dosing if you know your vitamin D levels and you really want to make sure you're around a certain dose, vitamin D level. We have vitamin D in the office. We like a liquid. Every drop is 1,000 IUs. I'll be honest, right now, I have one of those and I'm taking a full dropper every day. Just for where we are in the season, wanting to support my immune system, my overall health when we come into cold and flu season, winter, and what's happening just this time of year. But again, you can get more specific in terms of your vitamin D consumption if you know your vitamin D levels. Let's see. Essential supplementation, probiotics. So probiotics are just supporting the healthy balance of your gut. They are not the ones that are seeding your gut. They're actually changing the environment of your gut as they pass through your intestines for your body to have the right type of diversity within your all the bugs. The biggest thing with a probiotic, though, is you want to make sure that, let me back up. So I think this is a really nice graphic here. So it says 70 million Americans suffer from digestive diseases, and it costs the US $100 billion in medical bills. Your gut hosts between 500 and 2,000 species of microorganisms. That's bacteria, yeast, parasites, viruses. We get so, focused on the bug as the bad guy. But really, when we look at percentage-wise, we have to, number one, look at the balance and the health and diversity within our gut. If we have too much of one thing, it becomes a problem. So we want balance and a healthy gut. But there's just a very small percentage that are the bad guys. I mean, we've got, E. coli in our stomach right now. It's just our immune system is supporting, balancing that out, and we have a healthy, diverse microbiome. So it's not causing us any problems. We have to get away from the gut from the bug as the bad guy. It's really about the terrain. What's the health of the terrain for you to handle exposure to bugs, all bugs, okay? The bug is not the bad guy. I mean, if you take away this gut, this 500 to 2,000 species of microorganisms, if you take that away, we will die. This is how important it is. It is closely linked to our immune system, closely linked to our nervous system. 60 to 80% of our immune system is located within the gut. More than 40 diseases have been linked to bacterial imbalances, including depression, arthritis, IBS, cancer. So having a healthy gut is vital. The bug is not the bad guy, it's the terrain, right? I'm sure you've seen it before. Man, I got sick, but my partner, they were fine, or vice versa. Well, you guys were exposed to the same things, eating the same things, living in the same house. What is it about each of you? And it's about the terrain. Their terrain was very different from yours, and you were more susceptible to getting sick, right? So a probiotic is something that can help create and shape a healthy gut environment for the good stuff to do to thrive, really. But if you have a really unhealthy gut, it's called dysbiosis, but a gut environment, you take a probiotic and that can allow for the bad bugs to flourish. So you want to make sure you're in the right state to take a probiotic.
What about prebiotic?
A prebiotic is the food for the probiotic. So a prebiotic is providing nutrition for the probiotic. So when you have something that's a prebiotic and probiotic, something that we typically use for kiddos that haven't developed a microbiome, kiddo who didn't go through the vaginal canal to make sure their body and microbiome was seated in a healthy way from mom, they need some good probiotics, both pre and pro, to help create a healthy microbiome. I mean, we know if a kiddo doesn't have B. infantis, which is a specific bug, if the kiddo doesn't have that, 5, 6 years old, we're going to see some problems down the road. So we want every kiddo on a specific probiotic from a very early age to make sure they're getting the good bugs. Okay. And anything that wipes out your gut, antibiotic, you are going to want to make sure you're taking a probiotic. And you're not, this is the one time where we care about when you take a supplement. You do not take an antibiotic with your probiotic. You take it at a different time. And you're going to go through your 7-10 days of antibiotic, or whatever that is, and you're going to continue your probiotic use, but you're going to do a big number. So if we go to this next, in terms of probiotic, you want a high quality formulation, wide spectrum, meaning you have multiple different, microorganisms within that probiotic, between 20 and 100 billion colonies. So there's billion colony forming units. You'll see that on a probiotic. If you are on an antibiotic, you want to ramp up and at least get 100 billion. So you are continuing to take that probiotic after your rounds of your antibiotic. Antibiotic just clears everything out. It doesn't care if you're good or bad. It just clears things out. It can wreak havoc on your system. So that's where you want to make sure you're taking the appropriate probiotic at the right time, opposite times of your antibiotic, and then you're going to continue that, for a good, until that bottles out. Does that make sense? So that's where I'm going to stop really is I talk anti-inflammatory. You're going to think about, the fish oils. You can also do turmeric, but you want to do something that is going to support the inflammatory exposure that we have. I said vitamin D. That's great for the brain and all cells. And then a probiotic, which is great for your microbiome, but you want to make sure you're taking it at the right time. And it's appropriate for you. One thing, if you eat fermented foods, sauerkraut, kimchi, kombucha, there's not a ton in kombucha or yogurt, but if you're doing some of the fermented foods, even in a spoonful, you get trillions.
What about have you said kefir?
Yeah.
Yep, kefir is great.
I just bought some because I watched this on YouTube.
Yeah.
And I bought some, and it's really not bad tasting.
Yeah,
but it's
Did you
really
buy the flavor?
flavored.
Yeah.
Yeah, the flavors are always tastier. But yeah, kefir is great. Kefir is great.
And how much of that could you have per day?
You want to keep an eye on these things because again, there's a lot of sugar loaded in it. You need the sugar for the bugs. But I would say I would look at what the dosing is on kefir. I like more of a sauerkraut kimchi, and I do it like a tablespoon a day.
Just right out of the can?
Right out of it. And you want to rotate it. You want different exposures to different. I think so too. But you're just rotating the flavors because you don't want to continue to expose yourself to the same bugs. You want to just change it up.
Can you briefly comment on red meat, minimal consumption, and vitamins and minerals?
I guess I don't feel like I am qualified to talk on that. The question was, can I, speak to red meat, if it should be limited, the vitamins and minerals you can get from red meat. I think, when you look at humans as a species, I think we were meant to consume animal protein. I think there's things that you can get from red meat, like collagen, that you can't necessarily get from any other foods. I know that there are cancer survivors who were told, don't ever do red meat. It is highly inflammatory. And they stay away from it. And people who've done really well in a vegetarian and vegan lifestyle and diet. So I guess I'm not necessarily going to speak to that. I grew up on red meat. I have no problems eating red meat. I probably eat it 5+ days a week.
Yeah.
But if you watch anything, it's saying limit your red meat consumption. So I'm just telling you what I do. I'm not making any recommendations. And that might be a good workshop in the future to really dive into just talking about, the health of eating animal proteins and the pros and cons of red meat. But when you look at us as a species and what supports us thriving in a natural environment, those humans, thousands of years ago, they were eating animal protein. So sorry that I can't speak to it anymore. And I know I didn't get to a lot of other supplements, but we'll continue this conversation. And I hope that, again, the biggest, and I went long, so I really apologize for that. You can't supplement your way out of a poor diet. You're not eating good quality nutrition. You're wasting your money on supplements. Truly. You need to start with your food first, and then you start supplementing. Right? So bring your questions. If you want suggestions, like we're putting together our spinal workshop schedule for 2024. So if you want suggestions on what we should cover, write it over there. We really appreciate and value those, and we want to bring to you content that you feel like is what you want to hear. But I appreciate that you're here tonight. Next week is Halloween, so we're going to send out a recording because there's some parents in the house, but we want to make sure we're taking our kiddos around safely on Halloween night. So just stay tuned for that. Oh, biggest one. Patient Appreciation Week is coming up in like November 6th through the 9th. That means you can refer in anybody and they will get an exam and x-rays totally at our expense. It is our way of giving back so that you can send in your loved ones to just get checked to see how being under chiropractic care can help support a higher expression of health, put you on a different trajectory in terms of where you're going to be ending up 10, 20, 30 years from now. Because we know people who are under chiropractic care are healthier, are more informed, are making different choices, right? Have a better brain-body connection so they can do the things that they would like to do. You know, that's what we want. So those are our times over there. We just put the board up, so we got lots of times available, but I encourage you, send your friends and loved ones in. People who do things together are healthier together, right?
Is it this tip, like, the first appointment, that's the long one?
Yep, it's
So
that's
it's like a couple hours.
yep. It's an hour, and we usually streamline it. We want to connect with people beforehand, so we make it really easy. And we'll be playing and celebrating, so you can come in that day and have some fun. So I appreciate you being here, hanging with me for the full time. You guys really committed tonight. You guys are awesome. Love and appreciate you, and bring your questions to the office. But we will see you when we see you. Let's see here.
If you send somebody, do you have to be here?
Nope. Let's see. Oh, here we go.